Eddie Van Halen died, and I didn't even know he was sick, to be frank. We've lost a rock and roll guitar visionary. But what did he leave us behind? And that's what I want to talk about today, Van Halen, and some of their greatest tunes that influenced the rock and roll landscape. We've all heard Eruption, one of the greatest guitar songs of like the last 100 years or so, yeah? So Eddie Van Halen nicked that two-finger tapping guitar solo off Steve Hackett from Genesis, which is one of my housemate Zig's favorite bands, so I have to hear about that every single day. So we all love a guitarist and a drummer brother duo, just like Van Halen. I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's Eddie and Alex that started that band. And get this, they went, oh, what's a good name for a band? Our last name. Just like Bon Jovi, but better, because it's Van Halen. And they've inspired a load of other brothers during their time. Just like Pantera, you know, Vinnie Paul and Dimebag Darrell, they were brothers as well, and they wanted to play guitar and drums just like the Van Halen brothers. You know, it's influenced a load of brothers in bands, right? That's a cool thing. Angus Young, Malcolm Young, Bjorn and Benny. Not those ones. And they really burst onto the scene in 1978 with You Really Got Me, a cover of The Kinks, which was already a great song in its own right. But they really wanted to kick out the jams with some like pinch harmonics, really dusty kind of guitar tones, and some thundering drums to boot. So the band started off with David Lee Roth, and we all do like David Lee Roth, but most of us like Sammy Hagar, the second singer, a little bit better, including David Lee Roth. He thinks that the band is better when Sammy was singing, not himself. And who doesn't like that cracker of a tune called Dreams? I know it's one of my favorites. Van Halen was such a hot band in the 80s that Michael Jackson, the king of pop himself, remember we talked about him in the Nirvana video, he got Eddie Van Halen to do the guitar solo for Beat It. And when he wrote that song, he actually had Eddie in mind, with the riff and the guitar solo and all. And so, let's face it, we all just wait for the guitar solo to come on. Even though it's a banger of a tune, we're always going like, oh, I want to hear when Eddie comes in, because that's the best part of the song. So even as dumb as it is to name your band after your last name, Van Halen have got some pretty good stuff in their catalog. Like, they named a record 5150, which is the code for a mental health patient in a hospital. 5150, I'm off the heezy, you ain't got no fucking Yeezy. Remember that? I do. So we've all had a teacher fantasy, haven't we? And Van Halen did too. That's why they wrote the song Hot for Teacher. But have you seen the film clip? It's not very good. It's all black and white, it's all weird, and she's wearing like a weird pencil skirt, and then all of a sudden, you've got one of those token, like, what are they called? Yeah, they've got one of those weird pageant models come out in the middle of it, and like he's imagining his teacher as being one of those. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It's very unrealistic. My teacher never done anything like that. She just walked out and like got cross at me because I was like doodling in my book. Doodles. We all want to hear Jump when we go out on a night on the town, don't we? Because it's such a banger of a tune. But I have a few questions. Why is David Lee Roth blowing kisses at the screen like a young Farrah Fawcett in Charlie's Angels? It's a bit strange, isn't it? Also, when did stockings become a fashion accessory on a man's arms instead of a lady's legs? I'm confused. The 80s was so confusing. What's interesting about Jump though is Eddie Van Halen, instead of playing the keyboard like you would expect from an 80s band, he put his guitars through some pedals that made them sound like keyboards instead. And in fact, he thought it was kind of like his most like fun and creative stuff that he ever did on guitar, because it was like taking one instrument and making it sound like another instrument. It's made of space and magic, innit? So I don't know the bass player's name. Let's call him TB Player for now. But when we used to watch it as kids, he used to play a Jack Daniels bass guitar. Did you know he was sponsored by Jack Daniels? Isn't that the dream for a rock and roll bass player? No one knows who you are, but you get your own signature guitar that looks like a Jack Daniels bottle. Oh, and also, you get Jack Daniels after the show. For a while there, when Van Halen were touring so often, Alex, the drummer, actually had to have one of those neck braces on that they put, you know, like when you're in a crash and you're a crash victim. He had to put one of those neck braces on and lean his head back while he was playing drums because they were on tour that long that he couldn't even hold his own neck up. That's insane. Who tours that much? For those of you who want to have a signature guitar, and let's face it, when we play rock and roll, we all would like to have a signature guitar. What I would say to you, as good as Eddie Van Halen is, maybe don't have a guitar that just looks like someone just spray painted it and then stuck some like electrical tape on it. Sounds cool, looks horrendous. They made loads of bad decisions. Like haircuts for starters. Who loves a mullet? I mean, clearly the 80s did, but nobody else is ever gonna like a mullet again. And here's the thing, you know how people wore like suit jackets as a fashion accessory in the 90s? They did it in the 80s. Why do we need to rehash that? It doesn't actually look that good. It looks like you've gone, you know what I should do to look smart? Put a suit jacket on. No one actually thinks that you put some thought into your outfit. Unlike I have today. Oh, you can't even see it. Unlike I have today. Anyway, I know what you're thinking. Why are these guys always talking about dead folk? Well, rock and roll stars happen to die. Funnily enough, so does everybody else. They just kind of happen to die a little bit sooner. But hey, this is a celebration of Van Halen and Eddie himself. So, bit of a tribute from us at Cult of Rock and Roll to Eddie. Rest in peace, Eddie. Exciting news for us here at the Cult of Rock and Roll. We've got a new podcast coming out on Spotify called The Hit List. The first one is your boy running through his top 10 favorite Van Halen tracks. Go and have a listen, tell me what you think, links are in the bio.